Coming up, I'm going to tell you why you should launch your startup in 2023. And then a former Wall Street big shot trader joins me to share his story on why he left big finance to do what he really loved. Let's go. Welcome to the Ken Coleman Show, where we help you win at work and in life. In other words, more money, more meaning. You're winning at work, you're going to be winning at home. And we think that's a good thing. Welcome aboard. So, all right, here we are. It's hard to believe we are on the precipice of another year. I'll avoid all the old man, where did the time go? Time is moving on. But here we go. And people start to think about their future. As one year ends and we begin to make the turn into the next year, we begin to take self-assessment, inventory of where we are, where we want to be, what do we have to do to get where we want to be. And I want to talk about starting something up, starting a business. So many people want to work for themselves. We've shared that data here on the show. It's overwhelming. Over 70% of Americans want to work for themselves. But then you look at the sheer numbers of solopreneurs, people who start something on their own, the numbers are way, way less. And there's obviously a lot of fear of the unknown there, a lot of fear of failure, a lot of life challenges, and can I do it all? I mean, it really does hold people back. But I want to challenge some of you that you're probably more ready than you think you are. In fact, we're never ready, so let's just go ahead and say that. But I think that the things that we hold up as hurdles to starting a business, I don't think that they're the hurdles we think they are. In fact, I'm going to tell you that I believe that 2023 is the best time to start a business. It's never been better. So let's look at it. You've been hesitating, and I want you to start contemplating the following information. So why launch your business now? Well, number one, the cost. The cost is lower than ever to start. I mean, like really low. I think 50 years ago, you start talking about a business, the way businesses ran, the way businesses operated, you know, how you get into business. I think it's a much bigger discussion. The money was bigger. But now it's easier. In other words, it's cheaper than ever. Let's look at this. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, most micro businesses, that's 10 employees or less, cost about $3,000 to start. All right, now let's just take that number. $3,000. Even for some of you right now that are going, I don't have $3,000 in my bank account, Ken. You could. Side hustles as it relates to hourly work are more relevant, more rampant than ever before. People do it all the time. There's no shame in it. You're out there hustling. What are you doing? Well, I'm delivering pizzas. Why are you delivering pizzas? Saving up money to start a side hustle. There's honor in that. Delivering pizzas to pay off debt. At Ramsey Solutions, we talk about that all the time. So the hourly wages, the part-time jobs, to be able to make $3,000, or what if you had $1,000 in your house you could sell? Boom, you're a third of the way there, and you didn't do any work at all. So $3,000 is a barrier, but that's a low barrier, very achievable. All right. I said it's easier than ever. I talked about it's cheaper than ever. It's easier than ever as it relates to opportunity. The internet and the normalization of remote work mean that you don't have to sit in a brick and mortar place to actually sell something to somebody. People, their habits, everything's online. Buying something online now, it's not even remotely weird. I mean, if you just think about it right now, you look at Carvana and companies like that. Like 10 years ago, that would have been insane. I'm sorry, you buy a car online and you go put a token in the slot and it lowers the car and it unlocks it and you get your key and you drive off? You'd have told me I was crazy if I told you that 10 years ago. So online, it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. People are buying all the time online. The opportunity is everywhere. You can get to anybody, anywhere in the world. So the opportunity to sell something, a product or service, is easier than ever. It's easier than ever because of automation. You don't have to have a staff of 30 to run a company. Not of full-time employees. You don't have to do that. You think about apps, automotive services that you're going to pay a fraction for instead of a full-time employee. You're paying a fraction of a full-time employee cost to be able to deliver services. You think about a home builder, the contractor. Well, that contractor hires the plumber, hires the electrician, hires the drywall people, hires the painters. They have what's called subcontractors, and that housing company or the contractor that you hired to build your home, they don't have full-time employees to the tune of everybody that touches that house. They have subcontractors. And just as a home builder has subcontractors, you in your small business, side hustle, just you, through apps, professional services, automotive services, all the things we're talking about, through automation, you can cull together the manpower, the technology necessary to be able to deliver on a product or service. So, quick review. Why launch your business now? It's easier than ever. Specifically, the cost is lower. The opportunity is everywhere. And the automation has made it so much easier than it used to be. Number 2, you can start small and grow slow. In 2023, you can say, I'm starting. I'm not setting the world on fire. I'm not going to leave my day job. I'm not going to be able to provide for everybody through this job, but I am going to start it. Super small. And I'm not going to put pressure on myself to blow it up in 2023. I'm going to start it and do my best to grow it slowly. Start small, grow slow. That you can do in 2023. I promise you can. The idea that, hey, I've got to start something, leave my day job, provide, have all the margin, that is a recipe for stress and can set you up for failure. The converse is, hey, you know what? I'm going to start this thing on the side. I'm going to test it, see if I can learn a few things. If I can just basically cover my costs for a launch in 2023 and kind of just see some things, dip my toe in the water, if you will. We're not jumping in. We're just going to see what the water feels like. And we'll wade in. We're not jumping in. That only works, by the way, at the beach. If you wade in slowly and those waves keep crashing a little higher up on your body, it just increases the pain. All right? That's only at the beach where you just jump in, right, and get it over with. We don't do that when we're launching a business. Third reason why you should launch your business in 2023. Why not? Why not? 3 reasons why you should. The third one is just pretty straightforward. Why not? What are you waiting on? The longer you wait, the greater the chances that you never launch it. And then you regret it. As opposed to, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to try it. And then if I decide long-term I'm not going to do it, nothing ventured, nothing gained, nobody hurt, no regrets. Don't let your mindset be the thing that holds you back from starting that business in 2023. You can do this, and you should.
Did you know that just like a product, you have a personal brand? It's the image or impression others form about you based on your interactions. And whether we realize it or not, our personal brand impacts opportunities to grow in our careers. That's why our team created the Personal Brand Survey. It's free, and it will give you personal and professional feedback so you can own your strengths and uncover any blind spots holding you back. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/brand.
Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Thrilled to be with you. Many times on this show, I will tell you about people that I know that have left high-paying jobs, were crushing it, very good at the job, but something was missing. And I'll mention it sometimes, and sometimes I'll say, like a Wall Street trader. And I think sometimes people think that I just pull that out of the air. Well, today I've got a special treat for you. Because I got a new friend by the name of Craig Siegel, who's a stud and was crushing it. I mean, the quintessential New York hustler, and I say that in a good way, not a bad way. You're going to love Craig. And Craig is the guy who was, in fact, crushing it on Wall Street. Talented, very good at what he did. Something was missing, and then a lot was missing. And he has to come to a moment where he goes, what am I going to do? I mean, very successful, all the trappings. And something was missing. And he walked away from it because it wasn't about money. It was about meaning. And so I want to bring to you a bit of my conversation. I sat with him recently here in studio. We recorded it. We're going to give you a piece of it right now. Here I am with Craig Siegel. I like when people hear the not so awesome stuff behind what it takes to be a go-getter. And specifically, I want people to hear about your transition. You were on Wall Street and doing pretty well. I want you to paint the picture. This is kind of pre-pandemic and take us into the pandemic of your Wall Street career. So paint the picture.
Yeah. So when you say doing, first of all, I'm glad to be here. Love you so much. And we're going to get nuts right now. In regards to doing well, it's all relative, right? Like it's true. I was making some money on Wall Street, but as I learned through life experience, making money doesn't necessarily equal success. If you ask me now at this season of my life, how happy you are, how big of an impact you make is the key to success, right? So let's rewind a little bit. A couple of years back, I was on Wall Street. I was doing the stock thing for a while, lucrative, and it was a lot of fun until it wasn't. With the stock market, stuff like that, as you can imagine, there's a ton of stress, unpredictability, things outside your control. And so I pivoted from that and I started my own business in finance. Basically provided working capital to businesses all across the country. Lucrative, less stressful, but not exactly setting my soul on fire. And I had gotten into a bit of a dark place a couple of years back. I just got out of a toxic relationship. My dad, my best friend in the world, had gotten diagnosed with cancer. And I was the type of cat that was waking up on Monday, and it pains me to say this, I was actually looking forward to the weekend, right? And I know the audience, the listeners, anyone making a transition could probably relate to that in some capacity at some point in their life. I just didn't like the reflection I was seeing in the mirror. I knew I was here for more, and spoiler alert, we're all here for more. We all have gifts. We have to identify them and try to find our assignment, right? And so I always felt called. I just didn't know what it was. I gravitated towards running a couple of years back and started running a bunch of marathons, which was great. Just ran the Chicago one last week, but I wasn't looking to become a professional runner. I was looking for an outlet, an arena to be a gladiator. Fast forward the pandemic, lockdown, bang, the world shuts down. More specifically, I shut down my office. I looked around, I saw a lot of Netflix, a lot of day drink. I said, that's not going to be me. I don't know when I'm going to have this opportunity again. I know I'm meant for more. I know there's more out there for me. And I got really deep and I gave myself the old eulogy exercise. What that is basically picture yourself a couple of weeks down the line, done, dead. People are arriving at your funeral. What did they say about you? Sure, I made some nice relationships, had a little bit of fun, but did I really contribute? Did I leave a legacy? Did I make an impact? The answer was no. I had to be really honest and aware. And so I said, okay, well, what do I love? That was easy. Personal development. I'm obsessed with this stuff. Use it to build businesses, removing limiting beliefs, all that stuff. And then I said, well, what am I good at? And this one I said, you know what, if I'm being 100% humble and honest, I could communicate pretty effectively. People would always come to me for a little inspirational speech. And so I said, maybe we're onto something. I married those two concepts. I said, I don't want to be the next Tony Robbins. I want to be the first Craig Siegel. I don't know if this thing's 100% going to work, but I'm going to think big. But the most painful thing that I could do in the world right now that I have a little bit of clarity, is to not take that shot and go back and make the choice of being miserable. So I took the shot. Everything started to align, and the brand has exploded in the last 2 years.
That's awesome. All right, so that's a good overview. Let's go back. Okay,
yes.
So you go from Wall Street to your own finance firm, and then the pandemic hits, and boom, you just kind of laid out for us the decision you made. Now, and I don't know what your exact thought process was, but I'm curious. Did at some point, once you had the clarity that, hey, I want to go do something completely different, something that I've never done before, did you have some fear? Did you have some doubt? And if you did, what did it look like and sound like?
I had a little bit of imposter syndrome for a moment. And I think the biggest reason, well, two reasons why. Number one is I knew when I was going to start CLS, Cultivate Lasting Symphony, or Plan My Initials, Craigland and Siegel, that this was an arena I never tapped into, the online business space, putting myself out there. And this might surprise you, Ken, but I'm a bit of an introvert.
Right.
At the time, I had 300 Instagram followers. I wasn't really out there. Yes, it was scary. There's no guarantee it was going to work. But what I made even scarier was to go back and choose to be miserable. I actually associated that with death. I made it very real for myself. That was no longer an option. So stepping forward and taking uncomfortable action, even though uncomfortable, I know based upon life experience, and I bet you'd agree with this too, most of the real epic growth in your life comes on the backside of uncomfortable action.
That's exactly right. So what was the most uncomfortable thing for you as you started to put yourself out there? I want to get nitty gritty here.
Look, I believe that if you're not embarrassed of where you were a year ago, you're not growing.
Yeah.
Right? So if you go to my social media accounts and look, when we first started about 2 years ago, you'll see some of the content when I first showed up for the first time for the world, telling everybody who I am, what I'm going to start doing. I think just putting myself out there, right? And now we're speaking on stages all across the country, some of the biggest motivation speakers in the world. You know, this wasn't supernatural to me. It's a skill set that I had to embrace and get better at. But I think to answer your question in a nutshell, just showing up, right? Like it being an influencer and putting yourself out there. And look, people are going to have their opinions. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm certainly not everyone's glass of whiskey, but that's okay.
Yes.
I made a promise to myself that it would be 100% true, authentic, real, and raw. And I understood that it wouldn't be for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. The right people will gravitate to me and the right people will gravitate away. So the most uncomfortable thing was showing up like that, suppose on social media and on big stages.
How would you compare your journey and just showing up to running? If you're going to go from couch to marathon, that doesn't happen overnight. And yet somehow we get sucked into thinking, I'm going to launch this idea and everybody's going to love it because I'm amazing. And when it doesn't go boom, we get discouraged. And so how would you tie anybody's journey, but certainly yours, into getting started, showing up, to essentially training to become a runner?
Yeah, I love this question, Ken. And I think these life lessons that we're discussing right here, you mentioned running, we're talking business. I think they're applicable and universal for all areas. Yeah. Right. So I like to focus on what can go right, as opposed to, I think most people focus on what can go wrong. Yeah. And when you start putting yourself in that frequency and you're available for those negative thoughts, most people stop before they even begin because they're already talking to themselves as, what if this? What if they laugh at me? What if I mess up? I choose to no longer be available for those types of negative thoughts, and I'm only available, how could this go right? Can I physically put one foot in front of the other? Yes, I can. Can I work on being able to run further so I can get to the 26.2 mile distance? Yes, I can. Right. So I just like to focus on that and what I can do to level up and show up as the best version of me. And I purposely minimize any of those outside negative thoughts.
He is Craig Siegel. He's got a wonderful, wonderful show that I've been able to be a part of. His story is what I wanted you to hear. This is a guy that represents millions and millions of people who didn't like the way they looked in the mirror, but they don't do anything about it. And that's why I love his story. The reason I share that is because millions of people don't do what he did. He did it, and it's worth it. It's not about money. It's about meaning.
So you just landed the new job. Congratulations. You've made it past the interviews, and now it's time to onboard with excellence. That's why I created How to Stand Out at Your New Job. This free checklist will help you succeed from day one and may even help you get promoted. These practical steps set you up to add value, help your team win, exceed your leaders' expectations, and ultimately set you up for a successful transition. To get started, just go to kencoleman.com/new.
Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Helping you get unstuck and become unstoppable is the goal. More money, more meaning, more income, more impact. It's time to get to the coaching calls. Ryan joins us now in Lansing, Michigan. Ryan, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Ken. How's it going?
I'm living the dream. What's going on with you?
Well, I dislike my job. I just got a promotion about a year ago, and I feel stuck in it now.
What has happened? Was it that way was it that way at the beginning, or is it slowly evolved into this?
It's kind of slowly evolved. I mean, as slow as a year can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to one of your podcasts. You were talking about the developmental dozen, and I went through those about am I happy at my job,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them I answered yes, which is good. I feel very blessed with my job. I get recognized. I know my role. I have the tools I need, a healthy relationship with my leader, all that stuff. And a lot of people don't have that. But number 6 was, am I just okay in my role? Well, yeah, I'm okay. I can do it okay-ish, well-ish.
What is missing from that to where you're doing it with excellence?
I think it goes into the next one. Or the next, let's see here. Number 8, not producing results that matter to me. I don't feel connected to the results.
Right, which means you're not giving the effort, nor are you developing the aptitude necessary to be excellent. And it's because of motivation.
Right.
Yeah, totally get it. Well, just because that's true doesn't mean it's an excuse. But the reason I lay them out that way is because awareness is key to action. So you're not going to get where you want to go without doing what you have to do. So you need to be better than okay, and the way you're going to be better than okay is putting in the effort to get the aptitude to be able to crush it and be excellent. And the only reason we're doing that is not because I want to do it long term, not because all of a sudden I'm going to force myself to care deeply about the results. We're realizing that, wait a second, I have to win the now in order to get the next. Make sense?
Yes.
Do you want to be with this company in the distant future, or at least the near future?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not going to get promoted if you're okay at your job. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think?
Another part of this is the government kind of picked my career field in 2003 when I joined the military.
Well, now wait a second. Wait. The government didn't pick your career. You chose to sign up for the military.
Well, I chose to sign up, but they picked where I served.
Right. But my point is that's part of the deal. That's a little bit of that's not like a shock.
I get that, but my part in it was I got out and I kept going in that same career field, and now I'm looking at my life and wondering why I'm still in this career field.
The reason you're in that career field is because you have not chosen to either get clear or to get started. So you either aren't clear on where you want to go, or you are clear and you've just not started that path. That's why. But the reason that you're in that field is because you were in the military and you got that qualification and some skill set and experience. And then you went, okay, I can transition out of the military, and this is my perceived easiest point of entry. Am I about right?
Yes, exactly right.
So that's why you're there. It's not a mystery. Let's not make it a mystery. Because the more you make it a mystery, the more easy it is, the easier it is for you to cop out and not do anything about it. I don't know how I got here. Oh, that's just, come on, man. You know exactly how you got here, which means you can get out. So I asked you a moment ago if you wanted to stay with this company for the long term, and you said yes. That means that you must like the company, and it means, or it should mean, that you have figured out another field or another division or another type of work. Is that true or false?
Not that I'm qualified for, I guess.
I didn't ask you if you're qualified for.
So, yes.
You have identified another area. What is it?
It's a different part of supply chain. Okay. It's still kind of dealing with what I'm dealing with, but from a different point of view.
And have you observed it and talk to people who do it enough to know that you would have the juice doing that?
Yes.
Great. So we're clear. If you look at my 7 stages in the book From Paycheck to Purpose, stage 1 is get clear. That means we got to get clear on what we do well, what we love to do, what results matter to us. That's the talent, passion, mission. That's why we have the Get Clear career assessment. You're clear. You went the extra level for clarity by observing, talking to people who do it, and you know that is absolutely where you can get the juice in the workplace. So you're clear. Now it's stage 2, get qualified. So you have to ask yourself, what do I need to learn? What do I need to do? How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? The 4 qualifying questions, again, detailed out in the book From Paycheck to Purpose. Do you have that book?
I do not have that book.
Well, I'm going to give it to you. Whatever format you want, I want you to hold on at the end of our call, and Amanda's going to get you the format of the book that you prefer. And I want you to read it. And you can actually skip ahead if you choose to chapters 3 and 4, get qualified. But that's what this takes right now. Come up with a plan to get qualified and let everybody know what you're doing in the company. And you might just find that the company will pay for your qualification. You might. They might. They might go, hey, if you want to stay with us and you want to move to this, we'll pay for it. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but I'm saying it's possible, right?
Of course.
All right, what else you got? Did we get everything for you?
Yeah, I think.
I only asked you that question because I think you're a guy. I actually gave you everything you needed from me. But I just still sense with you some hesitation. Am I right? I'm okay if I'm wrong, but I just still...
So,
what is going on there, man? I just gave you the gold, baby. Take it to the bank. And you're going, what is it?
My hesitation is that the company I'm at is like the company in the area to be at. And I feel like maybe I don't want to be there long term. But
so this is the it girl, but you're not into the it girl.
Yes.
I know. All right, then. So guess what I would say to my pal if it was about a girl? I'd go, dude, just because everybody else likes her, just because everybody else thinks she's the bomb, doesn't mean you got to try to go out with her. Who are you attracted to? Who do you want to be in a relationship with? Go with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, what are they going to say? I mean, I'm with the hottest girl on campus. Do you want to be with the hottest girl on campus? No. Then why are you with her? I know. You're laughing, but I'm dead on about this. So
yeah, you are. So
here's the deal. What company do you want to be with? Go after that company. Who cares what everybody thinks about the company you work for? Who cares? Can I just tell you all something? It hit me the other day. I don't want to be morbid, but let me just throw this at you all real quick. There is coming a day where we're all going to die. And at the funeral, people will hopefully cry. Hopefully they laugh more at my funeral than they do cry, because I want it to be a celebration. And they'll remember us, and they'll be sad and happy at moments, and then they're going to gather. Then the people that really matter are going to gather at somebody's home, and they're going to talk about their life, the food they're eating, start talking about their own problems. You're barely covered up with dirt. And while they will be sad, they will be eating cold cuts and casseroles and everything, and they move on. I'm just saying, you need to live the life that you want to live. Who cares what everybody else thinks about what you're doing? It's true.
You were created to fill a unique role through your work, but it can feel overwhelming to figure out what that is. That's why I created the Get Clear Career Assessment. In just 15 minutes, you'll get customized results that clarify what you do best, the work you love to do, and the results that motivate you. All this helps you discover what you were born to do. And you'll get a list of professional possibilities to help you in your job search. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/assessment.
right, Jennifer is joining us next here on the Ken Coleman Show from the great city of Louisville, Kentucky. By the way, I ran into somebody the other day that was literally, it's called it Louisville. And it was all I could do not to correct him. I did not. I'm from the South. It's Louisville. It's just all one kind of word there. There's not even a syllable. It's just Louisville. We'll see what Jennifer thinks. Jennifer, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Jennifer. I'm doing well. You doing okay?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, how can I help?
So I have a bit of a dilemma. A couple of months ago, I was let go from a position. I'm a medical esthetician, and I was let go from my position. I had been with the company for about 4 years.
Okay.
And they let me go because I didn't, according to them, I didn't follow through with a particular policy.
Okay, so you know I got to ask. So when you say according to them, you don't have to get into the minutia, but can you prove that what they're saying? I mean, how would I know, taking your phone call, that they're wrong and you're right?
Well, I can't prove anything because it's my word against theirs. There was nothing written in our policies that they, employment handbooks and policies, they didn't give us or didn't state anything regarding the particular treatment that I did. And it was commonly supported by the aesthetics manager, and multiple of us estheticians performed this combination of treatment.
Was there a problem with the customer?
There was an adverse reaction with the client, yes.
Okay, so you did some type of medical esthetician work on the face, I'm guessing?
It was on her body.
It was on her body, and she has an adverse reaction.
Yes.
And she griped about it, obviously, or it was not good. It was reported.
Yes.
And this is a very common procedure that you and other estheticians in that place of practice did on a regular basis.
Yes.
And when the you-know-what hit the fan, the company took it out on you to save face with the customer.
I believe so. I believe I was being made an example of.
And there was never anything written about the way you were doing this work. There's no policy to say it must be done this way, not that way. That's what you're telling me.
No.
And so, okay. Well, okay, now I understand. So we got about a minute and a half or so. What's your question?
So my challenge becomes I initially thought that I would try to get into the industry and open up something myself. And it's just looking, because I'm not a medical professional, I'm an esthetician. It's illegal to practice, have a corporate practice of medicine. So that path is looking a little bit more challenging. So in the meantime, I am looking for other employment. And my question would be, number one, do I have to disclose that I was let go?
No.
And
you don't have to. You don't have to, but you need to assume that they're going to check your references and check your employment history. So it's not a have to. It's I would own it. Whenever it comes up in the conversation, I would own it. I wouldn't try to cover it up. But I wouldn't lead with it either. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I have been on some interviews, and they just assume that I had left my previous position. They didn't do any checking.
Great.
And so I can just leave it as that.
Yes.
I don't need to say, well, hold on, wait a minute.
Oh, okay. You got me.
And no, I'm saying, in an interview, do I need to bring that up and say, well, you're assuming that I quit the position? Well, I was actually let go. Do I?
No. I knew where you were going. No.
Okay.
You don't need to bring it up. But if they bring it up, you own it. And the way you would own it is, okay, this is an awkward situation because I don't want to throw my former employer under the bus. They were good people. I had a good work history there. Take the high road and just say, this was the procedure, and describe it. And this is how we would treat it. My other estheticians did the same thing. I'd done it 100 times before. I did it on this lady. This is the reaction she had. It was unfortunate. And as a result, I was kind of the scapegoat. I've learned something from it, but overall, it was a decent experience. Wish it hadn't ended that way, but I'm really good at what I do. I want to do it for you. That's how I would just own it. No mysteries. Just totally own it. Take the high road.
Did you know that recruiters take an average of 6 seconds to scan a resume? And that's if they ever see it in the first place. In fact, 75% of resumes are rejected before reaching a hiring manager. Listen, folks, if you want to get hired, you've got to make your resume worth noticing. That's why we created How to Write the Perfect Resume. This free guide will walk you through the 5 steps to stand out in the hiring process to get you your dream job. If you want to get started, go to kencoleman.com/resume.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Now, earlier in the program, I played a portion of my long-form interview with Craig Siegel, who's a friend of mine out of New York. And I was so excited to play it because this dude, man, he's a go-getter. And yet, as he said in the first portion of our interview, he didn't like the way he looked in the mirror, and he wasn't talking about his physical performance in the mirror and what he looked like. He was saying, I didn't like who I was. And yet he was killing it on Wall Street. And so he left. And he has done some incredible things now, helping a lot of people in their personal growth, speaking and doing things. He's got a great podcast, The CLS Experience. I've been a guest on it. It's great. I love Craig. Just such a positive guy. All he ever does is just affirm you and make you feel, like you're great. And he's a positive guy. And I've loved getting to talk to him. Now, in this clip, we talk about the challenges of starting something new. And waiting versus getting after it. And then we talk a little bit about burnout. And I love having these conversations with professional friends who have their own unique experience. So this is good stuff. Let's get back to it. This is more of my conversation with Craig Siegel. How did you handle failure and mishaps and things that maybe that didn't go the way you wanted it to go? Give us something there.
So you have to understand this, first and foremost. Failure is a part of life, right? As long as you take valuable lessons from it, it's the best way to grow. It's experience. And let me just be clear. I just got back from the Chicago Marathon a week ago. Yeah. Although I hit a PR, which in the running world is a personal best, I didn't do as well as I would have liked to. I know I could be better, right? And so I have a little bit of disappointment. And so I'm going to keep fighting because I want to get to a certain time. But in regards to failure, if you're going to try something new that you're not necessarily experienced at, for anyone out there that wants to start a new business or side hustle, put yourself out there for a relationship, there's going to be some bumps and bruises, but that's not a negative thing. That's positive because that's how we learn, grow, adapt, and adjust. And if you have that thought process, everything that doesn't work just brings you closer to what will work.
How do you test new ideas in your online business? Do you have a formula, or are there a couple of things you would recommend to our audience if they're going to try something new in an online business? How do you test it? And how do you know when, this is going to work exactly the way we thought, or I need to tweak it?
Feedback and data, right? So our community is huge. People say they've never seen such a loyal and engaged audience. For example, Instagram stories, very popular. I often like to ask a poll, right? And just collect the data and get some feedback on what are people interested in, what's hitting home, what's striking a chord, and so forth. And if you don't have a big community yet because you're just getting started, I would just try some things, throw some spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks, right? Yeah. It doesn't sound like the most organized thing, but how are you supposed to know if you don't try? And everyone's looking for clarity these days. I'm going to start when I get clarity. In my opinion, this might sound controversial, clarity follows action. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to try a couple things, and then you begin to realize what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I love that. Do you think?
I love you.
I appreciate that. Do you think that online business is just getting started? Do you see it continuing to be strong and continuing to evolve?
Two things. Number one, is the online space saturated? Sure it is. But as I like to say, there's always room for the best. in any field, no matter what you're doing, if you're willing to work on it and beat on your craft, and you're not just interested, but you're committed, there will be a place for you at the table, so to speak. And in regards to more specifically to answer your question, look, we just got on TikTok, right? And I thought I was late to the game to start a podcast. Now the podcast is one of the biggest things that we do. It just gave us a huge book deal with Wiley Publishing and so forth. So it's never too late. And look, the bottom line is, like, for example, the TikTok we just got on, my thought process is this. It's a pretty much a younger audience, right? But let's just say there's 15 or 20-year-olds that are on there and they start following the brand, seeing the inspirational stuff. Well, my thought process is those 15 and 20-year-olds can now grow with us for the next 40, 50 years, right? The online space isn't going anywhere. There's only going to be new platforms. There's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's TikTok now, obviously LinkedIn. So there's going to be something else too. So I would take advantage. There's never been a better time to make connections and to grow a business and utilize marketing like there is in social media.
I know you're a guy who's super enthusiastic, and I think there's a difference between what I would call passion and obsession. Obsession is unhealthy. Passion is healthy. And so we've got an audience here that's serious and getting after it. You're an entrepreneur. It's an online business. You got a lot of things going on as a result of that now, books and speaking and everything else. What do you do to make sure that you are pouring back into yourself? Because I don't think you can give what you don't have. So I want you to coach us up. I know you're into physical fitness. You keep slugging something healthy there in front of us. What would you tell people? Give us something really practical to make sure that they're not going too hard and not filling themselves back up.
This is an awesome topic. And I think we dove in on this on my podcast when you were a guest. Look, in terms of burnout, I personally believe if you're burnt out, you're not in alignment with really
100%. I agree.
Right? Because I don't know about you, but I have a feeling like we can do this all day, right? Like we could talk about this. These are my dinner conversations. I love this stuff. This will work to me.
Right.
And I know that because I spent 35 years trying to find this. And I used to be miserable, for lack of better words. So if you're really doing what you love, first of all, you can absolutely create a hybrid of making a massive impact and making a lucrative living. And when you do that, I don't think you can get burnt out. The other thing I'll say is this. Let's just say you do find what set your soul on fire and maybe you're working just a little too much.
That's right.
You have to take some time, give yourself some grace, right? You have to rest, whatever that looks like to you. Maybe you go see a movie, maybe you take a trip, maybe you go by the water, whatever the case may be, get a workout and clear your head. Whatever it is that you got to do, because as Ken so beautifully articulated, you can't give what you don't have. So you got to make sure that you nourish yourself and fill your cup, because isn't it like the airplane? They tell you to put your oxygen mask on first before your kids. There's a reason for that, right? Because you can't put on an oxygen mask on anyone else if you're unconscious. So you have to work on yourself and make that a priority. It's not selfish.
Yeah. Well, Craig, one of the things I love to ask guests when I have them on is if you could have lunch with everybody watching and listening to this show, and you only shared one thing with them that they walked away with, what would you want them to know?
Reinvention is ready when you are. And let me just be very clear. It doesn't have to be a career pivot. It's an identity upgrade. If you're not 100% satisfied with where you are, maybe you thought you'd be in a different place at this point in time in your life, forgive yourself, let that go, and then surrender the old skin. Shed those old identities, those stories in your head, the ego that's telling you that you're not meant to play big, that the world isn't yours for the taking. And I mean that in a great way, to make an impact and to contribute. You are absolutely meant for great things. And reinvention is absolutely ready once you believe it. And again, the most important sale you ever make is to yourself, to sell yourself that you're worthy, and then be committed to the process. And you can change not just something, but everything in a very short amount of time. You know,
I love that Craig went to the direction of reinvention. That's Craig Siegel, my friend, former Wall Street hotshot, now doing a lot of personal growth work in similar spaces I am. CLS Experiences, his podcast. But one of the things I love about that is when you open that question up to people like him who are go-getters, I love that he chose the word reinvention. And I was thinking about it when he first mentioned it. And as I listened to it again, you know, reinvention doesn't mean that it's necessarily a complete overhaul of what we teach on the show, which is talent, passion, mission. I do think that the passion can change, and I think you might be able to add some talents. But even with reinvention, and I think reinvention is a wonderful thing, we ought to think, okay, what does it look like? I feel like I've met some challenges, I've done some things I love, and I still want to be on purpose. I want to use what I do best, to do work I love, to produce results that matter to me. I bring that up because so many people hear me talk about purpose and dream job, and they think it's just one thing. It's not just one thing. It's not. And so I know men and women who have been in one field and were crushing it on purpose, and they got a new vision, and they completely reinvented themselves. But what was still true, they were using what they do best to do what they love, to produce results that matter to them. Hey, remember this, you matter. You have what it takes. Press on.
Thanks for listening to The Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.